Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Waking Up One. I am Janie Genosis, your host, and I'm so excited to be here with my dear friend Andora, who is one of the best manifestors I know, one of my favorite people to talk spirituality and consciousness and energy and all things that relate to Waking Up One. So, welcome, Andora. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Janie. I'm so happy to be here and I can't wait to get started. I
Yeah.
also love talking with you about all things spiritual. In fact, after our conversations, I actually go and share what you and I have talked about with other friends here.
Yeah,
So
me
thank you.
too. Me too. So that's why we're sharing it with publicly with the world. So yeah, stepping out and kind of for me it's been a little bit of a spiritual coming out of the closet. This is something I have dear friends I talk with about this, but I don't make a big public thing about it. And so it's a little scary to step out and do that, but it's such a heartfelt need. And we were just saying before I hit the record button, how many people are seeking and looking and needing this kind of information. So yeah,
A
so
hundred percent. I
thanks
know
for
I'm
being
always
on.
looking for more conversations
Mhm.
like this, and I know others are too, whether it's people who have been deeply steeped in these spiritual practices for who knows how many years, but also I think that there are a lot of people that are new to spirituality that are aware that something much, much bigger is happening on the planet right now.
Yeah,
And
and
so I think that many people are looking for these kinds of conversations.
yeah, I think it's undeniable. I think a lot of people feel it, and a lot of people that never felt it before, like you said, are feeling it. So let's talk energy. And you mentioned there's a lot of energy right now on the planet. So today is the 20th of June, 2025. And what are you sensing? What are you feeling out there?
Oh boy, wow. The energy is massive on the planet right now. So I am definitely an empath. So I'm really, really aware of what's happening on the planet. But I think everybody is aware on some level. I think they're all feeling it. Maybe they don't know exactly what it is they're feeling, but the energy on the planet is massive right now. Planet Earth and all of us on it are going through a tremendous shift right now. It is probably the biggest shift humanity has ever seen. And it is our opportunity to wake up. So we are being pushed in every way possible to wake up. And it's a very difficult time
Yeah.
for most people on the planet for one reason or lots of reasons. And one of the things that we're experiencing right now is really massive, intense solar energies. So
Mhm.
sun is putting off these solar flares, these plasma, what are they called? Basically, these plasma projections off of the sun. And most of the time, these massive energy fields, basically, they just go by the Earth. But even if they just go by the Earth, it is still affecting our magnetic field on the planet. And all of us are electromagnetic beings, so we are directly impacted. And just recently, I think it was yesterday actually, an X-class solar flare actually came and hit dead on at the Earth. And so the area where it hit dead on was in Maui. And so the volcano there is erupting. I mean, it was already erupting
Oh,
because the solar flares they've been increasing in magnitude. And but right at the point when that solar flare hit the Earth, I think it was oh, I can't remember the name of the volcano there, Kailua, or I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it. But she is erupting big time right now. And so what we're seeing is as these solar flares are impacting the electromagnetic field of the Earth, we're seeing all kinds of earth changes in Spain. No, I'm sorry, in Switzerland and in Italy. I mean,
mhm.
the tops of mountains are literally falling off.
Yeah,
And there are earthquakes, there's tornadoes, there's all kinds of shifting and happening on our planet. So the earth is experiencing that, but we're experiencing it too.
right,
That
right.
same kind of energetic shifting inside of us. And so it's being reflected in lots and lots of different ways. And, we're seeing in a lot of political uprising and
Mhm.
systems that really have not been working for a long, long time, they are falling away right now.
Mhm.
They are going to completely dissolve over the next however many years. And it's going to be very uncomfortable. But then what comes after that is going to be, I believe, something really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. If we can survive.
If we survive it. Yeah. And there's no
Yeah. Yeah.
guarantee.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. Cause that's always my question is like, what are we here doing? You know, you think about, okay, so we're dealing with all this energy. We're vibrational beings. We're energetic beings as well. Apparently we blink on and off so fast we can't even see that we're blinking on and off, but we're here, we're not here, we're here, we're not here. Speed that up times, thousands of zeros. But so there's a lot of theories out there about why we come here, right? I mean, I
Right.
think there's this sort of general consensus, whether you look at any kind of spirituality, that we have like this soul or this consciousness that comes and plays in this body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, you look at just about every spiritual tradition believes that, New Age believes that, you get specific on what that is called or how that works. But nonetheless, I think we all kind of believe there's more to us than
Mm-hmm.
just these physical bodies. And I think there's a lot of proof out there, people that have had near death experiences or out of body experiences, or, contacted a loved one after they passed, or things like, interesting things. You and I have had our share of interesting things.
Yep.
But then it's like, well, there's a lot of theories out there about why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So this energy is going off and this chaos is going on. Why would we throw ourselves into that? I mean, as spiritual conscious beings, I've heard the school. It's a school. We're learning. This is like
Mm-hmm.
this is like boot camp, where it's harder to learn here than anywhere else. And when we do this, it's like being if time doesn't exist, it's hard to explain, but it's like we learn faster somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It speeds it up. I've also heard, just really weird, that we are like energy for aliens. That one, it's like, yeah, like every time we get upset, and the more there's chaos and the more upset we are, the more energy they get. So they just keep sending us back here, and it's like the Matrix. I've also heard that it is the Matrix and that
Mm-hmm.
it's a game and we're just playing and we're creating. And I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, oh, so okay, we've got this chaos, we've got all this stuff. Apparently, none of it really exists. It all exists because we collectively decide that it exists.
Right.
But why? And I, with the exception of the alien energy thing, I like really all those theories, and I don't know which one. Some days it feels like a school. Some days it feels like, well, we're supposed to be here to figure this out, to manifest something really lovely. Like you said, it's going to be lovely. Well, do we have to go through the fire to figure that out, or can we just start doing it? I feel like we don't have to go through the fire, but we do, and so, yeah.
It's funny because for so many years, I thought I was really moving forward on figuring that out. And the older I get, I realize I know absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anything and everything could be right.
Right.
Maybe all of it's right at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my experience, I have had a lot of very interesting experiences, and I've had experiences that have me, there's no doubt that there is something much, much bigger going on. And
Right.
it is not something I just created in my mind. That
Right.
I've experienced things from the other side, I'll just say, that are more real than this. And when I'm in that space, it's a remembering of who and what I truly am, and that this is all just a play
Mm-hmm.
of some kind. I
Yeah.
remember one time somebody said, I won't say it exactly right, but you know how we usually talk about and say, we're not this body, that we're spirit, and that
Mm-hmm.
spirit is inhabiting this body.
Right.
But somebody talked about it in a very different way, where it's not spirit in the body. This body is in me. Like I am all of it. And this
Mm-hmm.
body is just one very tiny experience of me as a whole. And so when I meditate, that's how I am meditating now, that I'm meditating and tapping into myself as the whole. And this is just one
Mm-hmm.
very small expression of my totality.
Yeah.
And that's a very different way to experience.
Right. And if we're all interconnected, there's a collective consciousness that agrees to create things. So,
Right.
I mean, we've all agreed to be here, you and I. It's like these are they may not be real, but they feel certainly real. And just
Yeah.
like a dream feels real. I mean, it's like I'm having this conversation with you, and we are in these women bodies
Mhm.
on this lovely new technology that didn't exist 20 years ago, where we can record all of this and have these conversations. You're in Europe, I'm in the States. It's like we're hours apart, but here we are. And so it's like, so I still feel like, we make this decision on
Mhm.
a conscious level in some dimension, whether we
Yeah.
realize it or not. And I was listening to this old Dolores Cannon book yesterday, and she was talking about something called resting lives. And I
Oh, I
thought,
haven't heard of that.
that's an interesting concept. So, you know how you look at people and their lives are so chaotic and they go through so much suffering, and you're like, oh my gosh, this poor person, why are they, can I help them? What are they going through? And then you look at people who kind of like go through life and their life is just kind of uneventful from start to
Mm.
finish, but it's
Yeah.
not bad. It's not good. It just is. And she said that's like a resting life for people, that we go through
Oh,
the.
I'm signing up for that next time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, and mine's been more that way than yours, definitely.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
like, and so I feel like this guilt in me, like, well, I need to be like doing something, or am I not meeting my dharma? Because it's not, and I shouldn't say that I've had my share of stuff, but I think everybody does, just in this reality. But you're not there to learn as much, I guess. But I still feel like I'm learning a lot, even
Mhm.
in, my, like, I haven't had a powerful spiritual awakening, but I've had some interesting experiences. I'm always learning. So I
Mhm.
think everybody's journey is so different, but we can also impact each other by sharing our journeys and by understanding. Sometimes it's easier to learn from your friends' mistakes sometimes, or your friends' tragedies, than your own. And it's like it's less painful, but you still learn. When you see somebody going through something and you're like, oh, that's so sad for them. I feel so bad. And when I have to make that decision, I'm going to make it a different way because they did it. So sometimes we go through it to help other people. I mean, we could just go down the rabbit hole with all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I don't know why we're here.
Yeah.
I used to think it was to learn certain lessons, and
Hmm.
now like, maybe not. Maybe we're
Yeah.
just here to experience.
Yeah. That's me too. I've gone through that exact same realization. Yeah. I used to think, oh, it's a learning process and we're here and we have karma and then we
Yeah.
learn and we fix it and maybe. And I really like when you said maybe it's all true, because
Mm.
why couldn't it all be true? And if everything's
Right.
happening all at once, why couldn't there be aliens using this energy that's being produced? But we're also learning, but we're also here to create an experience. And
It sounds like totally crazy, but I mean, so many things. Having a cell phone not that long ago seemed like a crazy idea. So even when I hear crazy, what sounds like something crazy to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to pull back and go, maybe it is true.
mhm,
My perception, my understanding of the universe is so minuscule
yeah,
that, of course, there are realities that I cannot even fathom that are 100% true.
right,
And there's
right,
so much that we are not even aware of because our ability to perceive the universe is so, so small. And so the more we wake up, the more we are able to release past hurts and trauma and all of these energies from this lifetime and other lifetimes, the more we're able to clear that out of our energy field, and our ability to be more aware expands, where we can have a greater awareness of the universe around us. Then we can perceive different beings. Like sometimes I see dead people. Sometimes, I see past lives. And that's because I'm functioning at a different frequency. It's because
mhm,
I've been able to clear out some of that stuff in my field to see and experience more clearly. And so when we do that, we're going to experience a lot of things that seem pretty darn weird to our
mhm,
everyday human life.
yeah, yeah, because they talk about the clairs, and I think we all have all the clairs.
Hmm.
The clairsentience, which is just that inner knowing. I think that one most people can say, ah, you know, I had a gut feeling about this, or I knew in my heart, or, you know, something told me. We all say these things, right? To do this or do that. And then it works out in a fantastical way, or you don't listen to it and you're like, I should have listened to that, you know. That's that clairsentience. And then you've got the clairvoyance. You said you've seen things. I have not. I see them like in my mind rather than like see them. See, I have not seen an entity or a spirit or anything like that, like physically seen them. But I know a lot of people do. And it's like some people, it's like you and me seeing each other, which just is, that's so cool to me. I have had a clairaudient experience that was pretty wild. And that's hearing, you know. And then what's the other one? So we have sentient, voyant, audient. Some people smell. I don't know what that one's called. But they're, you know, like if you've smelled like your grandmother's perfume or something after she's passed, that kind of
I
people
don't think I've had
smell,
that one.
they've smelled cigars, you know, when they say that there's like someone in their house, like their house is haunted or whatever. Like I keep smelling this cigar. And then, you know, with somebody that lived there, they find out, oh yeah, there was a man there that used to smoke cigars or something, you know, and it's like, so there's so many senses and so many frequencies and by, you know, that we can tune into, and then knowing which ones are the ones that are going to be beneficial for us and
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
moving forward and for waking up versus you can play in some energies that I think are less beneficial. And I always tell people,
Mhm.
you know, be careful with those things and always come from the heart, come from love, come from that sense of how can I serve, you know, how can I benefit myself and others? And then I think what comes in is beneficial, you know. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
I learned for many, many years, I was trying to see these other energy fields with my two eyes.
Mm.
And I finally realized that when I'm seeing these things, I'm not seeing them with my two eyes. I see them with my third eye.
Ah,
Not only am I seeing with my third eye, but I can feel my third eye become very, very active.
wow.
And they've recently discovered that the third eye has rods and cones, just like our two eyes.
Wow.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And so when I recognize that I'm not seeing with my two eyes, and originally when I would see things from other realms, whatever, um, I thought I was seeing with my two eyes just because that's what I believed. But then when I softened into it, I was like, whoa, I am not seeing through my two eyes. I'm literally seeing through my third eye. And I have to tell you, that was a big awakening for me. Nobody had ever taught me that, but I could feel it, and it's so true. And as I recognized that, I felt a big expansion and a softening, and it's much easier now to see. Sometimes I hear, and honestly, that freaks me out because sometimes it's so loud. Like I remember one time they were talking to me, and it was so loud. I thought my daughter was right next to me. My hair actually moved, and I almost bounced off the couch. I was like, "You guys have got to be quieter. You have to be a little bit more gentle with me." But you know what? It's really, really hard for them to condense their energy enough to meet me in this energy field. It's really hard, it can be painful for them too, to meet me in a lower energy field. They have to condense themselves so much from a super, super light and fast moving energy frequency. So I really appreciate when they make such a big effort to communicate with me if my frequency might not be high enough. So my goal is always every single day to keep lifting my frequency and recognizing where I might be holding on to frequencies, energies that are lower. And because those lower frequencies are only creating an existence that is well, less enjoyable and in every way. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your process? What do you do to help kind of keep that frequency up and find this positive, beneficial connection?
well, I am a mega introvert, and I'm very grateful that now my life really allows that. I don't, in my previous life, I had to be in front of people all the time, and that was very, very taxing on me. So I spend a lot of time alone and in nature. I meditate a lot. And even my life is like a meditation. So I'm walking around the village and I'm often like walking around with a big old smile on my face because I recognize that there are people walking around the village too, but usually I'm tuning into the energy around me and I'm feeling the breeze or I'm feeling the leaves on the trees move. I'm feeling the tree deeply rooted into the earth and I feel the sky and I feel the people around me. Um, and I've gotten a lot better at tuning into certain energies. Like um, if I start feeling somebody's negative energy, and it could be, across the room or even not even in the space physically around me, I immediately sense it and I tune it out. I'm like, nope, that's not mine. Get out. And this is my temple. This is my sacred space. And I only allow in certain energies. And in the past, I didn't understand boundaries at all. And now I do. And I don't feel any negativity or anything about claiming my space. And if some negative energy tries to get in, get out.
Mm,
And it's really, really important for all of us to protect this sacred space
yeah.
and to keep the energies in here uplifted and pure and just full of love. It's really, really important. And to mirror that for people around us too. So, my daily practice is I wake up, and as soon as I start to come out of that sleep state, I recognize, oh my God, I'm here. I'm here again today. And then I just go through my gratitude practice and I'm just feeling gratitude for everything, everything, everything. And then my day moves into a fluid meditation, and everything I do, I'm just feeling some gratitude every moment of the day. Like I wake up and I might make my lemon water or whatever, and I'm feeling like just natural gratitude moving through my whole being for everything I have. And what gratitude is gratitude is an expansive energy. So when we're in that expansive energy, we are calling in more of that awareness of everything, really. And I am also not only just aware with my eyes and my ears and those senses, but I'm continually listening to my other senses too. I'm continually paying attention with my third eye and my inner hearing. And now, when I hear from other realms, again, I'm not hearing with my ears. I mean, part of it is, but I'm hearing from a different. I don't know how to describe
I
that.
know exactly what, yeah, it's like I do the same thing. And
It's a
I
different
always think
part of
of
my
that more
being.
as a clairsentient rather than audient is like, oh, they're right next to you talking.
Yeah.
But that sentient, it's like you can hear things sometimes in meditation. It's like someone's talking to you, but it's so gentle.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and you do hear the words.
Mhm.
And I'm always like, well, is that me coming up with the words or is that coming from somewhere else? And it's a little, I think for me, a little of maybe of both. It's like I'm opening up and then I'm able to maybe take those emotions and process them or that message in it, and maybe I process it and that's why it's like in my head more than in my ear, if that makes,
Mhm.
I don't know, I understand what you're saying. It's really hard to explain it. Sometimes it comes in so, and they say the first thing you hear is what is coming
Mm.
through, and to try to really listen to that very very first thing you hear. um
I'm curious, when it comes in, does it come in more on one side than the other?
mm, oh gosh, I
It always
really,
comes in on the right side for me.
oh wow, I think it does for me too. Actually, I never thought about that before, but it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think it goes from right to left. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose if you're dominant on the right,
I don't know.
I don't know. A good question. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, some people I've heard pay attention to how it comes in, as to whether it's, but I think, when it's something,
Oh, yeah.
if it's your mind starting to tell you things, it's different than this like inner knowing that'll say, you know, and sometimes I'll ask for something and they're like, not yet, or, I mean, it's like that kind of, sometimes you get what you don't necessarily want to hear too. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
oh, fine. Okay. You know,
That's interesting.
that is, yeah.
As I get older, I recognize that I always heard, I could always sense, but I never trusted it.
Yeah.
I always, and if I could go back, that's one thing I would change, is I would listen and I would
Yeah.
trust my own inner wisdom. It would have saved me so much heartbreak and so much confusion and loss and
Mhm.
difficulty. And I think that has been, if there are lessons that we are to learn in this lifetime, perhaps that's the biggest one for me,
Yeah.
is
And
to
it's,
learn to listen, trust, and to honor my sacred truth. And I
yeah,
didn't do that for most of my life.
I didn't either. I didn't. I'm right there with you. And I think it's never too late to start
Hmm.
doing it. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to do because it's a path where you know you're going to maybe disappoint somebody else or you're going to have to let go of things that mean something to you, but they're not. I use the word beneficial a lot because I think it's a safe, kind word to use. Something benefits or it doesn't benefit, but a lot of times when you let go, it frees you both too, if it's with you, if friendship or relationship or those kinds of things. It's hard. It's we make these connections for a reason, but some of them are not to be made forever, within the
Hmm.
life, the forever of this life.
Right, right.
So you were telling me earlier that you like to go out and take walks, and I know I've seen like some of your videos of walks, and where you live is a perfect place to walk. And I'm very fortunate in that I have a nature trail near me, and it has a little waterfall, several little waterfalls. And so I've got water and trees and just it's a beautiful place to be. So let's
Oh,
let's
yeah.
talk about what is it about nature that I mean, why should people go out in nature and connect to that?
Maybe what it is that in the cities, for anybody that's sensitive, you're picking up everybody's energy. I mean,
Mm,
we're always picking up everybody's energy. I mean, even right now, I'm picking up people's energy around the whole world. We all are.
hmm.
And we're not as aware of it. But when we are in close contact with those people, it's a little bit more, you're more conscious of it. You can definitely feel it more.
Yeah.
Um, and there's just so many more energies in a town or in a city. And when you're out in nature, the energy is just harmony. Nature is always in harmony. I mean, even when, we have these big storms and things, it's just nature finding balance again.
Yeah.
That's all that is. We don't like it because it's very uncomfortable, but
Hmm.
that's what nature does, is nature goes through these times where there might be an earthquake or a hurricane or something like that. And that's just nature finding her balance again.
Yeah.
Um, but like when we go out and we're sitting next to a river or under the trees that are swaying in the breeze, physically there's all these negative ions that are released and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I think that's our nature, is nature.
Right.
So,
I think our physical bodies are a part of earth and nature. And when we inhabit them, we're part of that. And yeah, the trees, I had, I really am, I love trees and I love water. Those are two things like moving water, oceans, little streams, rivers, and lakes and trees and even flowers. I mean, it's like I just go out and I just love to just look around. I'm like you, I'm smiling at nothing, because it's like, oh, it just feels so good to connect and the air feel, even though I live in a kind of a polluted city sometimes and we get forest fires and other things that can really mess up the air, there's still something about it feels cleaner just to go out and breathe outdoor air and be near the water. And it's got to be the ions, it's got to be the energy that comes. And when you start to learn about trees and things like that, they're so fascinating. They
oh
apparently,
yeah.
they're dying. When a tree is dying, underneath the roots is all this mycelium, like a fungus that's actually the communicator between the trees. And when one tree is dying, it will release what it has left into this network so that the other trees can have it,
Oh
which
my
is so
God.
beautiful. So that when it dies, it doesn't waste the energy. The energy gets
Wow.
reused and repurposed to the other trees. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I mean, and I don't know, like I always figure, what can we learn from nature? Because you said it's balance. And that's so true. It's even like our bodies. If we get a fever, we're fighting an invasive like a bacteria or a virus. And just by warming up, a lot of times we can get that out of there, by experiencing that. Or sometimes we get the chills and we're shaking. We feel cold, but we're hot. It's weird, it's like,
Right.
but we're getting into this balance to get healthy again. And we do that physically. And I think the earth, yeah, does the same thing. And if we think about, I was thinking about this the other day too. It's like, if we could take a microscope and go down, 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 every little, it's like we're little universes within ourselves. And so is a tree, so is a flower. So everything, it's like we can go out into this vastness that we talk about, where we're tuning into this higher vibration. Or we could drill down. It's not a low vibration, but it's like a minuscule, the tiniest particle, the tiniest, the connection. So like when our skin sloughs off,
Mhm.
there's a death there, and the new skin comes in, just like when we stuff off the suits, and maybe come into a new suit, um, it's, it's like these cycles just over and over and over everywhere, from the tiniest to galaxies that are dying, and, coming in, things that we see now with these telescopes that were millions and millions of years old, that the stars aren't even there anymore, yet we still see them. Yeah, it's just mind-boggling, really,
It is
when
mind-boggling.
you start to think about it. Yeah, yeah,
The galaxies that exist right in here.
within us. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I love what you were just saying about the trees, and when a tree is dying and how it will share that energy with the trees around so that none of it is wasted. And when I pass one day, I want to be as conscious as possible in my passing. And what if we all did that? And in our passing, we did that too. Whatever energy is left, we share it with
mhm,
beings that are left here on this planet.
yeah, yeah.
Very, very cool.
There's, in fact, there's places out there where you can be buried, like in a burlap with a tree, and you
Mhm.
feed the tree with I'm like, I love that. I mean, that's
I do
really
too.
cool, because it's just, we go back to the earth, and the earth can then use the energy from the body, because our consciousness is going to move on, and that never changes. That's that unchanging part of us, that's the ocean, and we still get to feel a little bit of being the drop, but ultimately we're the ocean. So
Right, right. We've had this experience being the drop, and then when we pass, when we leave this body, we dissolve back into the ocean, and we're one. We recognize that we're one with everything.
yeah,
I watch lots of near-death experiences,
me
and
too.
it's interesting how many people, when they go through that near-death experience, they feel like they finally have gone home, that they're home. And how many people, when they come back into their bodies, they come back to life, they actually go through a period where they're really depressed because they had the experience of being back home and then they're back in the body again. And it's really a difficult transition when they had that experience. But then eventually they adjust and they bring the lessons and the good from that death experience back into this life. And they share all of that good with the people moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. So many, they're all so different, but there is that underlying sense of home. There's, for the most part, that underlying sense of this, like, love that is indescribable. Um, that connection that's hard to describe. And I have found, as I've listened to these, there's still, I think, because it's a transition, and I think we tend to see what we need to see, and what we decide we want to see. And because there's some people will see Jesus, some people, one woman was, I heard her near death experience, which she didn't have any religion, but it was Shiva, this beautiful blue Shiva helped. And she said, she recognized that it was Shiva after she, came back, and like, wow, people see Buddha, people see just light and love, and no specific being. Sometimes some people see grandma, some people see, it's different with everybody. And so this Dolores Cannon book was talking about that too. This whole book is about all of these recordings that she did when she started doing hypnosis with people, and they were regressing through death experiences from past lives. And I thought, wow. And there's another man who I'd love to have on the show. His name's Robert Aho, who was deeply spiritual and had studied pretty much every spirituality, and um, ended up in this, like, this place of, he said, for 100 years, like this blissful place, but then also this place of like wind and chaos that was, but he knew how to like withstand it. But he was also a student of Buddhism and spirituality, the Vedic traditions and all of these things. So it's like, well, what we know is kind of what we see from
Mhm.
what I've seen, and then people who don't necessarily have, it seems like it gets filled in for them.
Mhm.
So obviously I think that we help each other, we help ourselves, we, the collective consciousness. And then the ones that have gone to hell, basically, because there are some where they talk
Mhm.
about these really horrible experiences, but every time they say help me, or no, this isn't what I want,
Mhm.
boom, it's
Mhm.
gone. So it's
Right.
certainly not something that you're stuck in for, but people sometimes go there because they feel like they deserve that, or there's something that there was a fear-based
Right.
teaching that made them feel like that's where they're going to go, something somebody said, who knows. But um, I think it's so interesting that they're all similar but different,
Mhm.
and so it's like, maybe we want to, when we prepare for death, because it's going to hit us all eventually, we want to prepare for what do we want that experience to be. And I've, a lot of people talk about that, like life review too. That's in a lot. And it seems as if things we do here, you know, make a difference when we, so there's that school, but those are the, probably the people who believe it's a school, right? I don't know. I mean, it's like you said, the older I get, the less I know.
Mhm.
And it's just
You
fun
know,
to think about it. So
I really wish that we had in our culture, I really wish that we had more of these conversations about death.
yes,
It's we're all going to die.
yes.
And I think it's really interesting how there's so much fear around it. And I think you're right about preparation for that death process. It's just another chapter in our existence. And I think it's interesting. I too have learned a lot from Dolores Cannon and listened to a lot of her teachings. And I find it very interesting how many people have had very similar death experiences, especially with her, where, I'm sorry, not death experiences, past life experiences,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where they have very similar experiences even though they in this lifetime they didn't have any of that teaching, any of that kind of experience in their life, but it showed up in a past life experience. And she can qualify it by having multiple other people who have had that same death experience to qualify those same results. It's really remarkable. And like they didn't have any experience, they didn't read any books, they didn't watch any movies, they didn't know anything about that particular history, but it came up in their past life experience. And I think that I really just wish that we would do a lot more, that we'd be a lot more present with the death process while we're here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think of it as a very sacred process, just like the birth process.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. And it is something that people shy away from. And I think particularly in these Christian teachings that we've had from, not really from what Jesus says, but from church. I mean, there's a lot of people that were told they were going to go to hell if they didn't do XYZ or believe a certain way, or yeah. And I've always struggled with that, because there's this huge dichotomy of like, well, if God loves us and we're all God's children, why would why would you ever do that to, and you and I are both parents, and I can't imagine, no matter what my son would do, that I would damn him to an eternity of
No.
horrid suffering. I mean, it's like, it doesn't make sense. It does make sense when you think about, well, these were people that wanted to control population, so you tell
Mhm.
them the most horrifying thing you can tell them: if you don't do what I say, then the rest of eternity you're going to suffer. Well, that's pretty scary. So
Yeah, and
they're going to do what they're told, and let's not think outside the box. And I think we're at a point now, thank goodness, where we're thinking outside the box, and we're saying, what is the box, and why are we in the box, and what's outside the box? And it's not, yeah, this is because this is what was taught to me, this is the truth. And it's like, no, we're
No, that's all changing now. I
very
remember,
rapidly.
it's funny. I remember when I was about 3 and I was in some Sunday school thing. Mom didn't do that for very long, but she wanted us to have a little bit of experience with the church. And then we could just make our own choices later on. But when I was 3, I was in some Sunday school thing. And I remember, they're teaching all the Bible stuff. And I remember sitting there going, that doesn't make sense. And so I asked exactly that, if a God is all loving, why would he damn people? Well, she stuck me in the corner and she told me to shut up and never ask another question. And I was like, at 3 years old, I was like, I don't think that this is something I want to do,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so it never made sense to me. And in my meditations through my whole life, I would ask Spirit, I want to understand God more. So should I read the Bible? And I always heard, no, don't read the Bible. You're going to learn more directly from,
Hmm.
and, and I think that there is a lot, like, so much about the Bible, but more of, what I believe what Jesus would have taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I love Actually, I would love it if you would talk more about that now. I don't know that much about it in that way.
Well, one of the things that I've been learning, and initially I was going to start this podcast, and that was kind of where I wanted to go with it, but there's some good ones already out there that cover that information. But I think, like you, as a child, there was just always something that just felt off about.
Mm.
And I was very deeply entrenched in church as a child. I went every Sunday. I could miss school easier than I could miss church growing up. And it was what I was raised with in Protestant religion. My mom was Catholic, so I got a little bit of that when we'd go visit my cousins who were Catholic. And so I had been to the Catholic church as well. And then I got like to this when I was about 12. I remember just writing this, and I wish I could still find it, but it was like, this isn't what God wants for us. I mean, I was 12 years old and I'm writing, God wants for us to be kind to each other and like commune with each other and have the kinds of conversations and help with each other, rather than like getting all dressed up and worshiping and going through rote things and building these big buildings and giving 10% of our money and all these weird rules. I'm like, that's not. And if it feels better to be in nature, God wants us to sit under a tree, and feel that experience, because everything, I just kind of, it was like the everything is God was coming to me at about 12. And I just, like you, I had a hard time. And I remember having, my dad was a very amazing, wonderful, sweet, kind man, very deeply entrenched in religion, but lived it, lived the rules as best he knew how, and what he learned. And I remember saying in the car one day, I had a conversation with him, like, well, how could Adolf Hitler be in heaven after what he did? Because he was a Christian, and Gandhi, who was a Hindu
Mhm.
and did what he could to free people and make life better, is burning for an eternity in hell. I said, how could that be? And I remember my dad looked at me and he didn't have an answer, but he said, but what if you're wrong? And I'm like, that's fear. I didn't
Yeah,
say that to him. I mean, that was kind of the end of our conversation, but I'm like, well, so you're making this belief system out of fear rather than love.
right.
And if you look at the Bible and you look at how, I mean, now they're starting to find these scrolls, Nag Hammadi. They're finding the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, who was, I mean, they said she was a hooker. I mean, we were taught that she was a prostitute, right? And it sounds like she was the partner of Jesus based on these new things that they're finding. And all of these, I would love it if there was a way to get into the catacombs and have Pope Leo or somebody just go and find these ancient teachings. So many of them were destroyed in Constantinople
Intentionally.
intentionally. And then you think about, all right, so there's this huge chunk of Jesus's life. He left at 12 and nobody knows where he went till he was 30, right? Well, there's a lot of evidence and stories that he was, and we're talking 2000 years ago, so there's no way to prove anything, but that he was in Egypt and in India and in Nepal and went along the Silk Road, went to learn 3 wise men came from the east bearing gifts. What could that mean? Could that possibly be teachings from Eastern traditions that were taught to this deeply devout Jewish boy who also was in a more mystical sect of Judaism, which is
Mhm.
completely different than I think even I'm not Jewish, but from what I understand, he was Nicene, Essene, all these different. They lived in communities and they were vegetarian and there's a whole lot of cool stuff that I'd love to get into, with some of these experts. But then comes back and is teaching this stuff and the way they teach in India. You and I, yogis, we've studied this. The guru, which means teacher, teaches groups of people, right? They wander around, they sit under trees, they learn stories. There's like esoteric teachings that are shared with the more devout, more learned. And that's exactly his disciples were the more devout, more learned. The masses, he was probably teaching them the basic stuff, and sort of truth is truth is truth. We are all energy, we're all connected, we're here to love each other, we're here to love the divine, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And that's pretty much what he taught. And then all this other stuff gets thrown in there. So you've got these folks that hear the teachings or learn the teachings, but were never in India or Egypt or Nepal and are learning and churning it out. Just like I haven't been to India, so I can only read about it and learn about it and talk about it to the best of my knowledge, but I haven't had that felt experience with it. So it's like these people are trying to explain this, and then it's like the telephone game. So you go from, all right, well, these people got it pretty good because they were in with the teacher, hearing the teachings. They go out and try to explain it to people who know even less about it than they do. Then they go and explain it, and then you get the people that go, oh, I could use this to, let's see what we can do with politics and turn this into control. And they do that. And I mean, and it happens, and you see it happen even in some of these yogi by what's it, Yogi Bashan, or I mean the one,
Hold on. Yeah.
holy cow, I mean the stuff that, I mean, it all looked really lovely on the outside, and then when we get inside, the egg is rotten. It's like
Yeah.
it's not pretty. So people take these teachings that are truthful and beautiful and beneficial, and they turn them into something else. And
Way to
I think,
control people.
yeah, yeah. And then I think people try to make them still good, but there's this, it's hard to make a salad out of bad lettuce. I mean, it's like, so that's kind of what we need to strip it back down, I think, and
Yeah,
get
I
back
agree.
to, and when you strip it back down and you go back to even any religion, you look at, if you can go way, way, way back, way, way, way back to what was the beautiful seed that was initially planted, and go back to that.
Mhm.
So I think with Jesus, it's pretty simple, and you love people
Yeah.
and you got to love yourself. And that's part of it, So this whole thing about, oh, beating yourself or, starving yourself or living in this like suffering, and no, you have to love yourself so that you
Yeah.
can love others. You put your oxygen mask on so you can help somebody else. And then all of that is, you know, going back to the divine. It's like, okay. And you don't want to do things. It's like you almost don't need rules, because if you live that way, you just want to live in goodness.
Of
Like
course.
you're smiling in nature. You just want to be in nature. You don't want to hurt nature. You don't want to hurt anybody. You just want to help and love, and it just becomes who you are, I think, when you live that way. You don't need all these rules. You don't need the dogma. You don't need any of that.
Well, that's exactly why it was all changed all those years
Yeah.
ago, because you can't control the masses when everybody is loving each other and helping each other and working together in community. And when people realize the power that we have within ourselves, well, you can't control people like that.
Right.
The way you control people is by keeping them in fear and confusion and um, having them forget who and what they truly are. And Jesus was all about love,
Remembering. Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
remembering, yeah, who and what we truly are.
And our
And
power.
Mary as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
she was erased because you certainly don't want to have the women
Uh-huh.
recognizing how powerful they are. This is what amazes me is that women, we create life in our bodies.
Right.
We birth that life into this world, and then we nourish that life with our bodies. And yet we have chosen to believe the lie that we are not powerful. We are not so miraculous. We chose, I mean, not consciously, but we fell into that what we've all been programmed to believe. And now I think that we're all starting to wake up and recognize our true divinity right here, each and every one of us.
Right.
And when we remember that we are love, and we remember that, that's why we're here is to love each other,
Mhm.
to remember how to live in community in this loving way.
Yeah.
I think that that's what the future holds. I think it's going to be a little bit bumpy to get there because all this old programming is going to fall away, and people are going to start waking up and go, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. I hope so. And I hope we can figure it out and not have to have so much chaos. I really
Yeah.
believe, like in the Bible, Jesus says, if you say to the mountain, move, the mountain will move. That's
Yes.
manifestation, right? He's talking about manifestation right there. So, how do we manifest this good, loving, clean, safe, harmonious world where we get along with each other? And maybe I always say we don't have to have these like tsunami waves. We can have a lake, where
Hmm.
we have a little bit of waves and we learn from that. We don't need the massive waterfall or the tsunami to learn. We don't, but sometimes we think we do, or we choose that because for whatever reason we choose that. I don't, again, going back, I don't know, but it's like, oh, can we just choose the lake? Can we just, we don't have to move the mountain. We can just like choose the lake. We can walk on
Yeah.
the water, I mean, and he shows that matter is not, walking on water is, and the interesting thing, I think if people study yoga, they will find that Jesus isn't the only one that did these things.
Mm-mm.
There's
No.
all kinds of miracles out there and
Hmm.
people who have manipulated
Oh, yeah.
matter. I mean, it's just, but we haven't gone back to doing that. And I don't think we should be able to do that until we are in that space of love. And
Yeah. That's when we
because
get there.
otherwise it's definitely not going to be done for the benefit of all. And
Yes, this is true. Yeah.
yeah, so which is probably a self-protective feature in that, hopefully the more good and kind and loving and beneficial you are, that's when those kinds of things come to you
Mhm.
versus the other way around. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Wow, very cool. I love this stuff.
Me too. Me too. I could just talk to you
I
forever.
know, me too.
This has been a super, super fun conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been
Continue with
super
this.
fun.